I will never forget what happened in our village, Odana, years ago. It is a story that people still whisper about, though no one speaks of it openly in the presence of the family involved. If you listen carefully on market days, when the women sit under the big shade tree peeling cassava, you might hear bits of it, soft laughter, sharp sighs, or the shaking of heads. But the truth is known only to those of us who saw it unfold. It all began when Adebanjo, the eldest son of Baba Ajoni, brought home a wife. Busy was her name, a quiet but intelligent woman from Akimbo, a neighboring village. She had the kind of beauty that wasn't loud, smooth, dark skin like the wet bark of an iroko tree, and eyes that always seemed to be searching for something deeper. When Adebanjo met her at a festival, he wasted no time. Within months, the marriage was arranged, and Busy came to live with us in Odana. At first, everything seemed fine. Busy was respectful, hardworking, and eager to learn the ways of her new home. She woke up before dawn to fetch water from the stream, swept the compound with the short broom made of palm fronds, and knelt to greet the elders properly. Everyone in the village said Adebanjo had married well. But there was one thing Busy did not expect: Adaronk, her husband's older sister. Adaronk was not just Adebanjo's sister. She was his second mother, his advisor, and, as some would say, his shadow. She never married, never had children of her own, but she carried herself like the first wife of the household. When their mother passed, Adaronk took over everything: the cooking, the running of the home, even the settling of disputes. She knew which yamban had the best tubers, how many kegs of palm oil the family still had, and which goat would be slaughtered at the next festival. So, when Busy arrived, Adaronk watched her closely. At first, it was small things. "Busy, don't kneel like that when serving my brother food. He likes the bowl placed on the stool, not the mat," she said one evening. The next morning, "Oh, you used too much pepper in the soup. Adebanjo doesn't like it this way. You should let me teach you how our mother used to do it." Busy smiled and nodded. She wanted peace. She wanted to be a good wife. So, she listened, but it did not stop there. One evening, after Adebanjo returned from the farm, he and Busy sat outside under the mango tree, laughing softly as they shelled groundnuts together. Adaronk, who had been watching from the doorway, suddenly clapped her hands. "Busy, is this how a good wife behaves? Sitting outside, laughing like a girl when there is still water to fetch." Busy's smile faded. "I fetched the water already, Sister Adaronk," she said quietly. "And have you cut the vegetables for tomorrow's soup? Have you swept the backyard?" Before Busy could answer, Adebanjo stood up and stretched. "Oh, sister, let the woman rest," he said, smiling. "She has been working all day." Adaronk's face hardened, but she said nothing. That night, she went into Adebanjo's room while Busy was still in the kitchen. "My brother," she whispered, sitting on the edge of his mat, "I have something to tell you, but you must promise not to be angry." "What is it?" She sighed heavily, her hands twisting the edge of her wrap. "It is Busy. I don't think she was raised properly." Adebanjo frowned. "What do you mean?" "She has no respect for our ways. Today, she sat outside laughing like a child instead of finishing her duties. Yesterday, she forgot to put enough salt in your soup. These are signs of a woman who does not take her home seriously. A woman like that can ruin a man's future." Adebanjo sighed and rubbed his forehead. He did not respond immediately. Adaronk knew him well, knew that planting small doubts was better than making direct accusations. And so, little by little, she chipped away at his trust in Busy. The next morning, Busy noticed that Adebanjo's tone had changed. He no longer teased her playfully as he used to. He barely touched the food she prepared. And at night, when she tried to speak to him, he only grunted in response. Adaronk, of course, acted as if nothing was happening. She continued to offer advice, and each time Busy tried to push back, she would shake her head and say, "Oh, Busy, I am only trying to help you. But if you do not want to listen, who am I?" One day, while washing clothes by the river, Busy overheard two women from the village whispering. "They say Adaronk has finally done it again," one said, her voice low. "Oh, yes," the other replied, "just like with Adebanjo's first wife. Do you remember how she left in the middle of the night? No one ever saw her again." Busy froze. First wife. Adebanjo had been married before. He had never mentioned it. That night, she asked him about it. "It is not important," he said, his voice tight. "She was not a good woman. But Busy could see it now, see how Adarang had slowly poisoned his mind. See how she had ensured that no woman ever got too close to her brother. And she knew that if she did not act soon, she would suffer the same fate. So, she made a decision. The next morning, she packed her few belongings, wrapped her head with dignity, and walked to Baba Ajoni's hut. Kneeling before the old man, she spoke. Baba, I have tried. I have done my best, but I see now that there is no room for me in this home. The old man sighed. He had seen it before, and he knew there was nothing he could do. Go in peace, my daughter, he said at last. By the time Odebanjo returned from the farm, Busy was gone. The compound felt emptier, though no one said a word. Adarong did not smile. She simply sat on her stool, peeling yam, as if nothing had happened. But in the village of Odana, the women watched, and they whispered, and they waited, because they knew that, one day, the strings that Adarong pulled so tightly would finally snap.